if I have the right to end my suffering by killing myself,
Right.
why would I not have the right to end my suffering in a way that improves my quality of life or what I have left?
Welcome to the Daily Mushroom Podcast. Today we have Thomas Hartle on the podcast. This is a really amazing episode. Thomas is the first Canadian to get the legal exemption to use psilocybin therapy. In August of 2016, he was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer and is still going. He's going strong. He's got one of the best outlooks on life of anyone I've ever met, and I really, really hope you guys all enjoy this conversation. It's an incredible one, so tune in and enjoy. We'll just flow. We're live. We're talking now.
All
right. Thanks for joining us, Thomas. So let's just kind of from the top here. I just kind of want to know, who is Thomas Hartle? Tell us who you are, where you're from. Let's start there.
Well, I guess officially I'm a 53-year-old stage 4 cancer survivor. I live in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I would consider myself to be, about as boring as white bread for most stuff. I have, gotten involved in the psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy department out of necessity for myself.
Right.
I have, suffered from what I would consider a considerable amount of existential dread from my terminal cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I have reached out and managed to get a Section 56 exemption, and I have had the amazing experience of the improvement of quality of life that this type of therapy can offer.
Awesome.
And since that has been something that's benefited me, I have sort of reached out to, other organizations, and I'm really trying to promote this as a therapy that should be, in my opinion, more mainstream. And I think one of the main things that is restricting that is a lack of information for the people who matter.
Absolutely, yeah. Couldn't agree with you more on that one. So let's, just for our listeners who aren't familiar with the Section 56, what exactly is the Section 56 exemption?
So the use of psychedelics here in Canada is illegal. Mm-hmm. So it's classed in the same sort of a category as many other drugs, such as heroin and cocaine and things like that, where they were deemed to not have any medicinal value.
Right. And
as a result, if somebody wishes to use those for a medicinal purpose, then the Office of Controlled Substances, specifically the Minister of Health, must grant that person an exemption to the laws that will enable them to actually use that in this therapeutic setting. And that exception is called Section 56.
Very, very well explained. That's perfect. So kind of take us on the path here of getting that Section 56 exemption. Kind of how did that start? Like, kind of bring us into the story there of, or maybe let's go back a little bit further. 2016 you were diagnosed. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
I was, yes.
Yeah, and then you did chemotherapy, radiation treatment, and then...
no radiation.
Okay.
My particular type of cancer is colon cancer,
okay.
And unfortunately your colon moves around, and for radiation they need a more stationary target, so I do not qualify for radiation.
Okay.
I had one major surgery in 2016 where they actually discovered the cancer.
Right.
At the time, they had thought that I had Crohn's disease and had been treating me for that. And as it turns out, that was unfortunately not the case. Right. Fortunate or unfortunate, I know Crohn's is not a fantastic diagnosis either, but did my surgery. I did 12 rounds of Folfox chemotherapy, and I had a considerable number of side effects from that, including neuropathy. That'll come into play in a little bit when I'm investigating what to do about that.
Right.
Then in 2017, I had a second major surgery, and they kind of figured that they had gotten what they could find in there.
Right.
And so, that was a pretty happy day for me back in 2017. Uh, so, they couldn't see any more cancer, and they sent me in for PET scans every 3 months. Now, if you're not familiar with a PET scan, that's so cancer cells have a larger number of insulin receptors than regular cells do. So if there's sugar in your system, the cancer cells get it first.
Yes.
And they give you a radioactive sugar. And the idea is that the more metabolically active cancer cells will grab that sugar, and then they will glow when they observe it. And they just kind of overlay that glow on a CT scan so that they can see the relative position of where it's glowing to where it is in your body.
Right.
So I was getting those every 3 months, and every single one of those was coming back completely clear.
Really?
So I'm feeling good about things, and life is good. I'm moving on with life.
Right.
And over the course of the next couple of years, I started experiencing some of the symptoms that I had experienced before, specifically anemia.
Okay.
So anemia is low hemoglobin.
Okay.
So I went to my family doctor to get that checked out, and my hemoglobin was, I believe, down to 67.
What's a normal
regular
level? Yeah.
Normal range is 130 to 180. So yeah. It was really not that surprising with those numbers that I was having a lot of trouble just walking around and stuff.
Yeah.
So we knew something was wrong, and so I was scheduled to go in for a colonoscopy, and during the course of that, they found that there were a couple of bleeding tumors in my intestines.
Okay. So this is the point where it kind of moved to stage 4, like it's metastasized at that point?
No, I've been stage 4 since 2016.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, I've stage 4 right out of the gate.
Oh wow. So the tumors, like the bleeding tumors, that was causing the anemia?
Yeah, it was. So I was bleeding faster than I could manufacture new blood.
Yeah.
So they scheduled me for another surgery in 2019, and they had kind of intended that I would lose the rest of my large intestine, and there were some potential surgical options where they could reattach things, or maybe a colectomy bag or something like that. Unfortunately, when they opened me up for that third surgery, it turns out the cancer by then was so extensive that surgery was no longer an option for me.
Right.
So they just cleaned up the incision line and close things back up again. So
wild.
So that is really where I started to experience, the real anxiety, because it was at that point that I realized that, not only did they not have any means of telling me the severity of the cancer,
right,
but now my treatment options are just about gone.
Right. So what was the message from your medical doctor at that point, where they were like what did they communicate to you after, kind of just going in to do a surgery, but then saying that there's nothing we can do? Like how did that go?
Yeah, well, that's it's got to be a rough day for a doctor. I really feel for him, because it can't be easy having to give that kind of news any more easy than it is receiving it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've had a couple of years to deal with my cancer, and I've always felt that I've dealt with it fairly well.
Right.
And finding out that it's not as under control as what you think it is,
right,
and then to have your surgeon, tell you that you've got tumors all over your digestive tract, and there's a very good possibility that one of two things will happen. Namely, I will have another tumor that will grow to a point where it blocks my intestines, and I can no longer
digest, eat,
process food.
Yeah.
So, at that point, there's nothing they can do surgically. Or because I have the tumors on the intestines, they have weak spots on them. So,
right,
likewise,
right,
I could have a perforation
Mm-hmm.
or a rupture in the intestines. And again, there's nothing they can do about that.
Right.
So, I mean, functionally, it means that if things progress to that point, I could have, a life-ending event
Right.
any old time.
Yeah, ticking time bombs in there, eh? And so the combination
Yeah,
of that with them kind of saying, we don't know what else to do. I can only imagine
they're
just that feeling of, oh, just lost, I guess, right? Like where do you go? What's the next
yeah,
step?
yeah. So for me, the treatment-wise, the only options I have available to me is the chemotherapy,
Right.
which I do every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I have oh gosh, I'm up to 56 rounds of chemo I've had now.
Wow. Wow.
That is,
That's a lot,
I
man.
worked it out one time. That's it's like more than 20 gallons of chemotherapy I've had pass through me. It's
Holy
like more than
crap.
my body weight.
Wow. Well, you
It's
look
insane.
great. I got to say that. That's a lot of chemotherapy, man. And that's spread out of the course. I guess there was a break there, right, between 2017,
There was, yeah. So
2019.
that 2 years that I thought everything was going
Right.
good, yeah. So no chemotherapy, no surgery, or anything during that
Yeah.
time. I was literally just living my life.
Right. And so, like, how were your anxiety levels at that time? Like, were you were kind of just you were back, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah.
I'm normally a really positive person,
Yeah.
and it's no different in my little break from treatments. Um, I was enjoying life. I was working full
Right.
time. You know, really no different from anybody else.
Right. Yeah, and then that event in 2019. So it's been what, 2 years since that surgery where they cut you open and then they closed you back up. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, I guess it
Two
has been.
years.
Wow,
Yeah, time flies, I guess.
that is I gotta admit that's 2 years longer than I thought I was gonna have.
Yeah, no doubt. So how are you feeling right now? Like as far as digestion and everything goes?
Well, I tend to stick to a low carb diet.
Mm,
I have to really watch the types of foods that I
yeah,
eat.
no sugar, I'm
You
guessing.
know, no sugar. No, no, I haven't had refined sugar since 2016.
Wow.
I cut that out of my diet entirely. If it's
Do you crave it at all?
in fruit or something like that,
Yeah.
I'll be okay with that in limited amounts. But you know, piece of chocolate cake is out of the question.
Right. It's highly addictive stuff, man. Yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people can't kick that, right? So, yeah,
Oh, it comes down to a matter of motivation, really.
absolutely.
You
You've
know,
got some pretty good
I sort
motivation.
of,
Probably the
I really
best.
honestly just picture the stuff as straight up poison.
Yeah. Wow.
I can't even put it in my mouth.
That's powerful. Yeah. Okay, so kind of we're at kind of 2019 now, right? So you've had that surgery or the failed surgery, uh, feeling lost, not really sure where to go. How does that now kind of meet and come together with alternative psychedelic therapy?
Yeah. So, in terms of alternative medicines and I guess it would be more accurate for me to call it adjuvant therapies because I wouldn't
Adjuvant?
want anybody to get the impression that I don't do the traditional medical route.
Right. No, yeah. You're doing both.
I think surgery and chemotherapy and that stuff it's effective and it
Right.
works. Um, Not the only solution.
There you go.
I don't believe
Yeah. Well
in
said.
my experience.
Yeah.
There is a wealth of knowledge in traditional Chinese
Mm.
medicine, in some tribal medicines. So when I am approaching my cancer treatment, I'm not just looking at Western medicine. I'm looking at things that will enhance my immune system to help my body combat it,
Amazing.
to reduce my response from the sympathetic nervous system.
Hmm.
I'm not sure whether you're familiar with some of that or not, but
A little bit, just from some experience I've been doing with breath work recently, and
yeah.
engaging.
So it's like this. In
Yeah.
nature, if a zebra is getting chased by the lion,
Okay.
The zebra is fully engaged in the sympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
The adrenaline is pumping.
Right.
The heart beats faster. The circulation to unnecessary limbs is reduced, and it's it's definitely the fight or flight.
Right.
Humans are not so different from the animal kingdom in terms of the way that we respond.
Right.
So we still get that same response.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, your repair mechanisms and things in your body just shut down because it's not necessary when you're running for your life.
Yeah.
The key difference with humans and animals is that with humans, we have this thing called anxiety that prevents that
Right.
from shutting off.
Ah.
We have anxiety, we get depression, and we get stuck in our heads,
Right.
and this sympathetic nervous system just keeps on going.
Wow.
So rather than allowing your body to get into these more restful, restorative states, you just can't.
Right. I've never heard it explained that way. That's super fascinating. Yeah, that this flaw of human beings that we are kind of always either rambling around in the past or projecting into the future, right? And the inability to turn that off can cause us some pretty unbelievable distress and potentially cause a lot of illness that we see in the world today, right? So.
Oh, it absolutely does. You just need to look around you at the number of people who are on medications to try to help with their depression, anxiety,
PTSD,
despondency.
Yeah.
It's something that there are thousands and thousands of people suffering from.
Absolutely.
And it is, I believe, a contributing factor to the other health crises that we have.
Right.
People like myself, full of cancer, autoimmune disorders from arthritis, to skin conditions, reduced immune systems where we're not able to fight diseases as well as I believe we should be able to. So for me, all of this stuff sort of wraps together into a package, and so for me, when I started really experiencing this severe anxiety with the potential of dropping dead in an afternoon. I recognized that if I couldn't bring myself out of that state, then I didn't really have a whole lot of hope to experience any healing myself, or I guess if you were to talk to doctors who consider stage 4 cancer to be incurable, it's a matter of longevity. There are people who have had stage 4 cancer and are able to live for really extended periods of time and have a good quality of life.
Right.
I would like to be one of those people.
Yeah, that's right, man. You got the right attitude for it.
So, I started looking for ways that I could alleviate that sense of dread and anxiety that I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And having had prior symptoms from my first round of chemo, the neuropathy, I have experience with other natural plant-based and fungus-based medicines that have been effective for me.
So this goes back to your experimenting with alternative plant-based medicines. That goes back to 2016? Like you're kind of...
It does, yes.
Oh, okay, right on.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah, I was going to...
I mean, I've had a lot of family members who have passed from cancer. There's no two ways about it. Both of my parents have had cancer. I've had, mother-in-law, father-in-law pass from cancer. Aunts, uncles, nieces. It's just this whole litany of family members who are no longer here.
Right.
And I have looked into treatments on different therapies that would contribute to boost the effectiveness of chemotherapy and immune systems and things like that. And there's a wealth of knowledge out there with studies that are being done on places like PubMed. which would be a location where medical researchers publish their papers.
Okay.
So somebody does medical research on the Johns Hopkins study,
Yep.
for example, on psilocybin.
Yep.
That is there.
Yep.
In my particular case, I was looking into something for neuropathy, and I came across lion's mane mushrooms, which are a neurogenic.
I was just enjoying a
have
lion's
neurogenic
mane
properties.
tea here right now during our chat. I love this
Good
stuff.
stuff.
It's great. Yeah. So
So I was taking 4 grams a day of lion's mane mushrooms, and I had waited a year after the end of my first round of chemo for the neuropathy to go away, and it just wasn't. I was having trouble doing up buttons. I would have to hold the wall in the shower so I wouldn't fall over because I couldn't feel my feet.
wow.
And after using the lion's mane mushrooms, it took some time, probably about 6 months. Nerves don't grow fast, but they do grow.
Right. And that's 4 grams a day consistently for 6
Yes.
months? Wow.
Yep.
Heavy dosages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the therapeutic doses of some of these are a lot higher than what people think they
Right.
are.
Yeah.
Right now with as an adjuvant treatment for my cancer, I do turkey tail mushrooms, turkey tail extract, and I do at least 8 grams a day of that.
Wow. How do you take these mushrooms? Like, what's the preferred method? I'm just thinking of 4 grams of mushrooms. It's quite a lot of
It's a lot.
mushrooms.
Yeah.
Not to mention 8.
It's a concentrated extract.
Okay.
So I put it into capsules.
Oh, cool.
And I take capsules.
Yeah, great.
So it's 16 capsules a day with
just popping those vitamins.
the turkey tail.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so you've experienced. So it's not just psilocybin mushrooms. There's been a lot of mushrooms on your road to healing here.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
For my particular therapy, I feel like vitamin D is another one that is important. So I take 10 to 20,000 units a day of vitamin D.
Wow. Yeah.
It depends if I've been in the sun or not.
Right. Yeah.
But I definitely take the extra capsules. I take high doses of zinc. So
zinc.
high doses of vitamin C.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that are very restorative, and your body needs those. Cancer is really, really tough on the body, so it's important to supply it with everything it needs to rebuild when it has the time to do it.
Right, and remove everything that it feeds off of at the same time.
Yep, milk thistle extract.
Okay.
With the chemotherapy that I'm on, milk thistle is something that helps to restore your liver.
Right.
So it's one of the few things that will actually help to treat a damaged liver, and chemotherapy is just straight up rough on things. So very important to try to help the organs that are not broken.
Right. Absolutely. So I have a question. When you were diagnosed, is this the turkey tail, the zinc, the high dose vitamin D, high dose vitamin C, was that recommended by your doctor?
God, no.
Interesting. So you had to go out and figure this out for yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. My oncologists are very much by the book. They are very much the chemo, surgery, and radiation school of thought. Not that they tell me not to do any of these things, but
it's not in their training.
It's not in their wheelhouse, no. And I don't know whether that's for insurance purposes or whether they're just genuinely not informed. I find it personally hard to believe that they would be that unfamiliar with the studies that I'm going out and seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, I would really hate to think that I'm better informed than my oncologists are, but...
Well, I mean, you're the one with stage 4 terminal cancer, though, right? Like, you have way more motivation to research this stuff.
I do.
On a personal level, right? So you've got a deeper drive there. And it's, we spoke about this a little bit before. My mother went through her own a terminal diagnosis about 9 years ago, and that was I knew the answer to that question of did any of your oncologists recommend these? I just kind of wanted to hear it from you because I didn't see any of that either. It was just pain meds and chemo and really nothing to like bolster the immune system or talk about health. It was kind of just like, it was all about like defense attack. Offense attack without like the defense of, let's build you up and make you as strong as possible, which is very strange that's not a conversation. And
it's another one of those things that I have a little bit of a problem with the Western approach to medicine.
Right.
It's aggressive in the way that it approaches diseases.
It's like militaristic almost, right? Like storming the beaches.
Yeah. It feels, more like an extension of that fight or flight mechanism.
Right.
So, we're fighting cancer and we're battling against cancer and, we're going to kill the cancer. And if you look at that from that, the idea that we're trying to not engage the fight or flight mechanism, it seems kind of counterproductive to me.
Right.
Wow. The actual healing states that we're in, your healing occurs when we are at peace and when you are calm and experiencing love.
Right. Yeah, you can't fight fire with fire.
No, right. It doesn't seem to work.
Yeah.
So,
and also
for me,
too, from my understanding, cancer is something that's kind of in all of us, right? It's just a matter of if it mutates and grows. So why are we fighting something that is inherently part of our DNA? It's like, that seems like we're going to lose that battle if we're just all about fighting it, right? And all we see with cancer, organizations, and I know a lot of their hearts are in the right place and they're doing their best. But you're right, it is about, let's end this, let's end cancer, the fight to end cancer. And it's like, well, what if we just decided to accept and work with it and accept that it's a part of us, right? Is that kind of, that's where I feel like I'm at in my, journey with it.
It sounds a little weird, I know, but, cancer has not been 100% bad for me.
Huh.
I have come to recognize that my cancer has taught me a lot of lessons.
Right.
That would have been otherwise impossible for me to learn.
Right.
And I think part of my cancer experience is specifically to learn those lessons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Focusing on things that are just not important in life.
No doubt. Yeah, I guess a lot of mundane things go out the window when someone, when you get the news and the information that you've received.
Yeah.
So what kind of dropped? Like what became irrelevant? What were the things that you saw in life that maybe, you were doing that you were just like, why? Like, why? What's the point of continuing this?
As positive and upbeat as I am, I'm no different from anybody else. My head can get stuck in unimportant stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
You're human. Mundane crap, like getting mad at somebody in traffic, right? I'm learning that a lot of the tension and things that we feel on a day-to-day basis is really just a matter of perspectives.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's somebody driving slow in front of you.
Yeah.
You're going to get mad at that idiot and cut it out.
Yeah.
But it's really a matter of your perspective. So what if that was your aging mom in the car in front of you?
Right. Yeah.
Whose eyesight isn't so great and she's afraid to go any faster. Or what if it's your teenage daughter who's just learning how to drive?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't know what the story is on the other side, right? And it's funny how when we're in that, and I think getting angry at someone in traffic is a great example of being in that like fight or flight stress state, right? Mm-hmm. You have no interest in any empathy or compassion for what the other person is going through. You just kind of jump to the worst case scenario, like this person's an idiot, they don't know what they're doing. Like, get out of my way.
We've gotten to the point where we just attack on reflex
Yeah.
needlessly.
So this
You
like
know?
this perspective that you have now, is that like, I'm guessing it's kind of been a gradual shift. Did you have this perspective before your diagnosis?
Before my diagnosis, I was positive,
Yeah.
and I try to look on the bright side of things and try to find the good in people. Um, it in some ways was academic for me.
Right.
The way that a lot of things were academic for me. Whereas now it's more a part of who I am.
Right.
It's not something that I have to think about.
Right.
Compassion for another person, isn't something that I have to stop and consider and pull myself back.
Right.
It's just
That's your operating
the
state.
natural way of things.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you've reprogrammed yourself to just live with empathy and compassion.
And the empathy is something that the psilocybin therapy has definitely amplified for me.
Wow.
Being able to appreciate the feelings of others
Right.
and really view the world from their perspective is a lot more second nature.
So let's get into that now. You've got
Sure.
you've August of 2020. When did you receive
August
the
the 4th, 2020, yeah.
August 4th, 2020? That's when you received the exemption, or is that when you did your first session?
Received the exemption on the 4th,
Yeah.
and I did my first session on the 12th.
Oh wow, you're right in. You're ready to
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
That's awesome. And so at this point, had you been working with Therasil? And just for our
Right.
listeners, again, Therasil is a organization out of Victoria that is helping people get like Section 56 exemptions, also practitioners and counselors, so they can work
Yes.
with patients.
And their patient advocacy group, and right now they're expanding to try to also get new legislation put in place,
Yeah.
so that instead of the current backlog of people who are trying to get these Section 56s, we're trying to medicalize the use of psilocybin in the same way that initially cannabis was a medicalized substance.
Yeah.
So, instead of me having to go to my member of parliament or the minister of health and present all of my medical information to
Right.
them, and
As an individual.
please, can I have this exemption because I'm dying? This is something that is, in my opinion, best between a doctor and a patient.
Right.
The same as any other medical condition.
Absolutely.
I in my perfect world, I would not be laundering my dirty laundry like this out in public.
Yeah, no doubt.
This is not my ideal way of doing things.
Yeah.
But I have anxiety about dying. I don't have anxiety about speaking in public.
Yeah. Good.
And
well, what you're doing is going to help a lot of people. Sharing your story and sharing the roadmap of everything that you've gone through, and kind of, there's a lot of people that don't really know what to do, that are like day to day, every day in Canada. I'm sure there's someone that's getting that same story from an oncologist, like, okay, well, we've tried everything. We don't know what else to do. And then
I would have to think many.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it kind of sounded like you were speaking, like you're working with Therasil. Are you actually active in working with them?
Well, I'm not a member of Therasil.
Right.
Therasil has been very helpful in helping me to get my exemption.
Right.
And I am
Awesome.
in turn trying to help other people who are going through Therasil. Therasil and I have a common goal of making this psilocybin-assisted therapy available to more Canadians, not just for people who have terminal cancer, but for so many other conditions that are just as serious.
Absolutely.
ALS or treatment-resistant depression, PTSD. There's addictions.
It's a
There's
big
a
list.
large number of conditions
Yes,
that the psilocybin therapy has a track record of being effective for.
absolutely.
And so, because I have benefited from this treatment, I sort of feel like it's my responsibility to give back.
Probably feels pretty good too, knowing that you're out there. You know, is it?
Well, I
Yeah, I,
honestly, I like to think that what I'm doing is going to make a difference at some
it
point.
absolutely is.
You know,
Yeah, you can rest assured on that one. So keep going, man. Yeah, don't stop.
I'm pesky and annoying, and I yap a lot. So
Perfect. That's what.
I'm hoping that at some point, perhaps the people who make these decisions will have enough information
Mm-hmm.
and have enough. I know that they have been presented with um the wording for potential legislation
Mm-hmm.
from Therasil and from other
Yep.
groups that are based on the cannabis laws that were initially put out there, and I I recognize that they're probably not perfect,
Right.
but it's like a relationship. If you wait until you find the perfect person, you're gonna die alone.
That's a good
At some
analogy.
point you need to find something that you can work with,
Right.
and you use that as a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are a couple of mechanisms for legislation that are perfectly reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Using the cannabis laws as a basis, that's a really good one.
Right.
Using the MAID system is another
What's
one
that?
that I think is reasonable.
What's the main system?
So MAID is in Canada. It is legal to request medical assistance to end your life.
Mm-hmm.
If so, if I decided that I'm in too much pain, my cancer has no further treatment options. I just
You're
can't
done.
handle
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's
Quality of life
it's
is
legal
gone.
for me to fill out some
Yeah.
paperwork, and a doctor will help me end my suffering.
Right. And that's fairly new in Canada too, right? Isn't that 2016 that like euthanasia assisted suicide?
Yeah, I don't know the date on it myself, but it is pretty recent.
Mm-hmm.
So, from my perspective, the goal of the MAID system is to alleviate suffering.
Mm.
And right now, it has only one mechanism for doing so,
Right.
which is to end your life.
Right.
So, if I have the right to end my suffering by killing myself,
Right.
why would I not have the right to end my suffering in a way that improves my quality of life or what I have left?
That's the question. That's powerful. That's huge. Yeah. Why wouldn't we? Right.
You know, I don't see any difference,
No, me
honestly.
neither.
I mean, if you're going to allow me to die, why won't you allow me to try something that's going to potentially make the rest of my days less anxious,
Yeah.
less depressed?
And the impact
You know,
and the impact on your, the people like just us having this conversation right now. The fact that you've gone through this and now you're helping other people get involved. You talk about your perspective shift towards empathy and compassion. To me, it sounds like that's a much better thing that we could be focusing on, because the ripple effect of that, right, is huge. It's massive. Of having more people like yourself out there sharing their story, being compassionate, caring for others.
yeah.
I'm all for it.
If my story were unique in this,
Right.
that would be something. But my story is really not unique.
Right.
I've had a chance to speak with other people who have had Section 56 exemptions, and uh, many of them have experienced a significant improvement in their quality of life.
Right.
Now, at the same time, some of them have gone on to use the MAID service, and some of them have
Right.
let nature take its course.
Right.
But
They had the choice.
they had the choice,
That's
and
the big thing.
I really believe that in talking to them, the amount that the psilocybin assisted therapy improved their life was so worth it.
Right. Yeah. And when you look at the studies around the safety compared to other drugs that we use,
Wow. The
psilocybin's.
safety margins are the safety margins for psilocybin are so high that they sound
I
ridiculous.
know, it's
I
true.
mean,
Yeah,
the
it's got
toxicity levels for
caffeine beat,
psilocybin,
everything, right?
you, you would have to literally eat pounds,
Right. An
pounds
impossible
of the
amount of
mushrooms.
mushrooms to have any sort
Yeah,
of complications.
and the nature of psilocybin, the mushrooms in a natural form.
Hmm.
I mean, if you tried to eat pounds of it, it induces nausea.
Right.
You would throw it
Yeah,
up.
there's a
You
counter effect,
couldn't
right?
do it.
And there's a
And
certain point where the receptors for psilocybin, I'm kind of butchering this, but if you go over a certain amount, like isn't there kind of like a maximum where
it's I think what you're talking about. It has a diminishing return.
there you go.
So if I took psilocybin today,
Yeah.
it would have a maximum effect.
Right.
If I took it again tomorrow, it would have less of an effect,
Gotcha.
and less until it really didn't have any effect on me.
Right.
So it's sort of a self-correcting drug.
Yeah.
You can't
You can't overdo it.
abuse it in the way that other drugs are, like opiates, for example.
Right. Where you
You
build up
you take
tolerance and
an
you have to take
opiate,
more and more. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
With psilocybin or some of the other drugs that are in that same class. I believe LSD is another one
Right.
that is a similar molecule, and the continued use of that has a reduced effect. So
Right.
that's where they have microdosing protocols, for example. Not something that I have done myself, but something that I have most certainly come across in my research,
Yeah.
where you have to have these gaps
Yes.
when you're taking it. Otherwise, you build up a tolerance to it, and it ceases to be an effective
Yeah.
medication for you.
Yeah. So it's almost like an anti-addictive property, right? If you just completely lose all
Well, I
effect.
mean, it's
Maybe
yeah.
not
I mean,
anti-addictive, but definitely not addictive.
well, I would honestly go so far as to say kind of
Wow.
anti-addictive. It is literally used to treat addictions.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Let's get to the day, August 12th. This is, so did you, this is during the pandemic, kind of like summer one of the pandemic. So you're in Saskatoon. Therasil's based in Victoria, BC here.
It is.
Did you travel to them? Did they travel to you? Because you did it in person, right?
I
Was it a
I
Zoom
was
therapy
extremely
session?
fortunate. Yeah, yeah. Take some mushrooms and throw on Zoom.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably not a good idea.
I was very fortunate that Dr. Bruce Tobin
Oh yeah.
is one of the founders of Therasil, and I was looking for a therapist who was experienced in the use of psilocybin therapy. Extremely difficult to find in Canada because it's illegal,
Yep.
and of course, not so many therapists who are willing to say, "Yeah, I know about that." Dr. Tobin was one of those therapists,
Good man.
and to my great fortune, he volunteered to come here to Saskatoon to do my session with me.
That's amazing. What's Dr. Tobin's experience in working with psychedelic therapy?
Well, I
That's
I
extensive.
would not want to I would not want to butcher his credentials,
Okay.
but he is most certainly experienced in both the use of psychedelics in a therapeutic setting and as a therapist in general.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
he fortunately has both of those things that he's bringing to the table,
Yeah.
and I am completely unqualified to tell you about his qualifications.
No, that's okay. We'll have an article about him in our upcoming newsletter, talking about him for sure, so people can do a true deep dive, and it won't be on you to describe that.
I can tell you that he is very good at what he does. He has the approach that he uses for the psilocybin therapy itself is kind of a hands-off
Okay.
therapy.
Okay.
So where a traditional therapy, you would expect, a therapist asks you questions and leads you to
Mm.
places and such. Um, Actual psilocybin therapy isn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's an extremely introspective process, um, but it's more than just popping some mushrooms and going on a trip.
Right.
Uh, the intention of the process is really really important, and it's something that a lot of people leave out when you just I hear about people using mushrooms
Mm-hmm.
recreationally, and they say, it didn't do anything for me. Therapeutically, I'm still, just as messed up as I ever
Right.
was. And it's really not surprising,
Yeah, of course.
because, if
Set and
you are
setting.
not using it in the proper
Mm-hmm.
context and the setting and the intention, then of course you're not going to get a good result out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how could you expect to?
Yeah.
So prior to actually doing a session with the psilocybin, there are a number of therapy sessions to establish exactly those things.
Mm.
Your expectations, what you would like to get out of it,
Right.
trust with your
Of
therapist,
course.
the types of things that you'll likely encounter during a session,
Right.
the absolute uh, essentialness of surrendering to the experience.
Yeah. Not resisting.
So,
Very
if
important.
you are having a challenging session and you fight it, you are going to have a bad day.
Absolutely. The bad
The
trips
the
that we all
best
hear
thing that
about.
you can do is to embrace what's happening to you and go with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then it allows the medicine to actually do what it's there to do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So instead of staying wrapped up in your anxiety or depression or whatever it is you're dealing with, um, it allows you to get your ego out of the way
Mm-hmm.
and actually connect the I can deal with that
Right.
parts of your brain to the the previous
Right.
I don't want to deal with this parts.
Right. Do you see it?
I think our brains are really good at iconifying things.
Uh-huh.
I guess would be I'm a computer guy,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think of things in largely computer
Uh-huh.
terms. And in the same way that you have an icon on your
Yeah.
desktop for your email,
Yeah.
it's not actually your email. It's just something that represents email.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so our brains deal in symbols and icons very much the same way.
Right.
So in your mind, you have got a location there where you put the stuff you don't want to deal with,
Uh-huh.
and I would call that the I'm out box.
Right. Yeah.
And every time you put something in there, you are reinforcing this neural pathway
Mm.
that says that if I don't want to deal with something,
Yep.
over it
Off
goes
it
in
goes.
the I'm out
Yeah.
box. And when you have a psilocybin session and it takes the default network offline, so
Yep.
the default mode network being the circuits, I guess you could call it the traffic cop,
Okay. Yeah.
traffic lights.
Yep. It's the
That is what determines how things communicate in your mind,
Yes.
and your default ways of dealing with stuff.
Yeah.
So you take psilocybin, it reduces the blood flow to those parts of the brain. It physically puts that part to sleep.
Right.
So now there isn't a default pathway that says, this is how we deal with this anxious situation.
Yeah, it's like
It
the
now,
logic board is gone, right? Like it no longer has that
yeah,
programming of how we've always done things. Therefore,
mhm.
this is what we
it's
do with this new thing. Like I like your,
yeah, it's
I
it's
actually,
like a layer of fresh snow, right?
yes, I love that. Yeah, so new tracks can
So
be
there's
formed.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so back to this iconification
Hmm.
of things. You know, in your mind, there's going to be something that represents, you know, the problem or danger or something bad. And for some people, that's going to be, childhood memories. For
Hmm.
some people, that's going to be getting eaten by a bear. It's not actually being eaten by a bear. It's
Right.
just something that your mind is trying to say, hey, this is danger and I don't like it.
Right.
And
Avoid. Yeah.
but the important part of the psilocybin session is when a challenge like that comes up, you have to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're gonna be eaten by the bear, you let yourself be eaten by the bear.
Right.
If there's a scary staircase that you don't want to go explore, I
You
mean,
have to.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the act of doing that, so the courage
Right.
to allow that to happen is always rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
You are connecting the I'm out box
Yes.
to the I can deal with this parts of your brain.
Yes. And
And it makes this new pathway in there.
yeah. And so working with Bruce, when you, let's use the staircase as an example. You're in your experience. You hit your staircase. You feel that resistance to want to go up and see, what's at the top. What kind of happened there with the therapist, with Bruce? Was there, is that where he kind of like guided you, and did you say something to him of like, could he sense that you were like in a fearful state maybe, or a resistive
You
state?
know,
Because there's obviously a breakthrough moment, right?
well, I think I might be a little different from a lot of people.
Okay.
So, psilocybin experience is like one of those revolving doors on a hotel, right? Those automatic doors.
Yeah, I know the ones.
If you step into one of those, if you don't have any intention or if you have resistance, that door is going to hit you on the butt, and you're going to have an experience anyways.
Right. Or if you do something stupid
For
and
me,
two people get into the same section together. It's always a weird experience.
Yeah. For myself, I was very, very prepared for the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a very definite intention, and I had, I believe, a very strong understanding. So, I was more pushing on the door.
Right. Yeah, you're ready.
I didn't hit any moments of resistance.
Right. Okay.
For me, every part of that experience was really serene and peaceful and reassuring.
Yeah.
So, where I had really expected to have something traumatic and scary,
Right.
I didn't have any of that.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe because of what you've been through for the 4 years prior to it.
Yeah,
Right.
I honestly feel like it's what I needed.
Yeah.
For me, I was looking for answers to things like, how can I exist, after I die if there's no me?
Right. Whoa.
And I didn't really have a concept of what a consciousness without the personality would be.
Right. And now do you? Can you share with us like your a new perspective that you have?
For me, so when you take psilocybin in the amounts that I take,
Which is
and
how
that
much?
default mode network shuts down. That was 7 grams.
Okay.
Yeah. You will experience what they call an ego death, and it wasn't something that I resisted at all. It was for me just a change of state.
Did you know that you were experiencing the ego death while it was happening, like in real time? Did you have a thought during the therapy session? You're like, oh, this is it, or was it kind of like a reflection afterwards?
It for me, I think had I stopped to think about what was going on, that would have been more anxiety-inducing.
Right. Just like purely explorative.
Yeah, I was really just pushing to see what the experience was, and so instead of a panic thinking that I'm ceasing to exist,
Right.
I just became something else.
Wow.
So without that, really uncomfortable middle part.
Yeah. The not knowing part.
Yeah. So I mean, I have heard so many stories and read so many articles of other people's experiences where they talk about the thought that oh no, I've taken too much and I'm actually going to die, and you know,
Yeah.
and that never actually entered my mind.
Huh. And that's I guess
But
the resistive state, right? Like if you get to that
yeah,
point where you're like, uh-oh, I made a mistake. This is bad.
yeah,
Something really
yeah,
bad's going to happen. That's when people are putting that wall up. And they're
and
not
that's
willing to
where you
go up the
have,
staircase, right?
well, it's where there's this divide that can it's either going to become a positive
Right.
experience with some courage to go through
Yeah.
that, or you're going to resist it and it's going to be something that causes trauma to you.
Right. Yeah. So, in your perspective, then, like this ego death that we all hear so much about during a psychedelic therapy session, like what is that exactly? Like I see it as it's like the separation of the self. It's kind of like you split into two almost. This is just my kind of thing.
Well,
Is like then I'm objectively looking at Brett the human, right? And like everything that Brett's been through. And I like to look at it as a way of, like a friend's in a really bad relationship, right? And you
mhm,
know exactly what they should do, but you have no idea like what you should do in your own relationship. It's like you're too close, right? Like you're too close to the center where, yeah, it's kind of the way I see it. It's almost you get step outside of yourself to have that separation. What's your kind
yeah.
of perspective on that?
Boy, my world gets a little weird when we get into that territory.
Cool. Let's get weird.
Uh, um, in the same way that your liver and your kidneys filter your blood,
Mm.
your eyes filter the magnetic spectrum,
Hmm.
your ears filter the vibrations in the air. Uh, I have sort of come to the conclusion that your brain is a bit of a reality filter,
Okay.
and the way that you experience that reality in this filter is largely determined by that default mode network.
Right.
So it's built up over your lifetime.
Yeah.
Uh, it generates your ego, and it separates me from not me.
Right.
And that's the whole job of your ego, is to say, this is me, this is not me, and then you determine whether that's a good thing or not a good thing.
Right.
And it generates feelings
Hmm.
and stuff. So when something like a psychedelic comes along and wipes that out, you no longer have that filter of
Right.
what is me and what is not me,
Right.
and what is good and what is not good. And when you no longer have those judgments
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
assessments, then
Just a whole new world of possibilities.
what you used to define yourself
Mm.
as is has an opportunity to completely change.
Wow. Well said. Huh. Okay. So, how long was that first session? I think I read did it take 7 hours? I don't want to say that you were
It would be
under,
in the
but you were in the
neighborhood.
session for
Yeah.
7 hours.
So I took the first dose at about 11:30 in the morning,
Okay.
and I would consider myself to be pretty grounded again sometime between 5 and 6 p.m. that night.
Wow.
So,
And were you laying down? Did you have music, blindfold,
yep.
all of the above?
So, working with the protocol that they used at Johns Hopkins.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's headphones with music playing and a blindfold. And after I took my psilocybin dosage, I was doing a lot of meditating.
Mm.
It's something I do a lot of.
Oh, awesome.
I meditate at least an hour a day, every day. Uh, and that's something else that I would suggest is helpful for somebody who is considering this therapy, because uh, the meditative state definitely improves the transition while the
Right.
drug is kicking in, because there is definitely a come up anxiety
Yep.
that
Oh yeah.
people will experience.
Yep.
And I mean, it is a drug that has physical effects as well.
Absolutely.
It isn't just well, unicorns and rainbows.
It can
I
be
spent pretty
quite
much
challenging.
the entire time trying to regulate my body temperature
Mm,
because I was, you know, constantly chills
yeah,
and sweats and quite a bit of nausea involved in that.
mm,
It's something I experience on a daily basis, anyways, but
right,
most certainly enhanced by that. So it's not something to do lightly.
yeah,
It has definitely physical aspects to it as well.
right. Why is
Um,
and which is why it's so important for people to have access to do it in a proper setting with, a certified therapist or counselor that's been there
for
before, that's
sure.
walked the walk, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That's why I'm so much on the promoting it as a medicalization side, not just flat out legalization.
Right.
You know, don't get me wrong. I believe that this is something that everybody should have the right to use,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I would very much like them to be using it in a safe, responsible way that is going to be helpful, not harmful.
Yeah, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that. That the medicalization is the first step. We can worry about tripping recreationally later. But I'm worried that if it goes too far in that direction with recreational use and a lot more, kind of what happened in the 70s, right? A lot of bad stories
Yeah,
seem to pop up because people maybe aren't doing it in the best settings. We could
yeah,
we could see another big setback, and there's such a
yeah,
huge opportunity right now in Canada specifically to get this moving forward in a proper direction and set the course for the next several decades of our current mental health crisis that we're in right now.
it's with the pandemic.
Mm.
I mean, we have not seen the tip of
Yeah, no doubt.
the impact of mental health that this is going to have on thousands and thousands of Canadians.
Yep,
You
I'm feeling it.
of course, yeah.
It's been a weird,
You know,
weird year and a half, man.
I have not talked to anybody who has not been affected in some
Yeah,
way by
yeah,
this.
absolutely. It's so strange. I mean, like my family's all in Ontario. I'm going back to see my dad soon here, but even just with like the Delta variant and like my sister has young kids and she's still not comfortable with me coming to see her and the kids, and I totally
Mm-hmm.
get that. And at the same time, it's been like it's been 2 years since I've seen my niece and nephew, and it's
Yeah,
hard. It's a hard thing to kind of to wrap my mind around, that like it's potentially very unsafe for me to travel through an international airport and then immediately go and
mm-hmm.
see. So yeah, the psychological, even just stress from something like that. That's a grateful situation for me to have. The
Yeah.
ability to
Even
travel and see people, but it does
yep.
things to you. It's all got an impact on the psyche.
Even fully vaccinated,
Yeah,
it's difficult to get past these mental hurdles.
totally. And yeah, I just feel like we're getting new information every day and we don't seem to really know or understand. And I don't expect anybody to fully have this thing figured out. But it
Mm.
all feels like we're living in a bit of a limbo state, which is a tough place to be. So, can we get into some of your like personal relationships if you're comfortable going there? Of
Sure,
Yeah, so like you have 2 kids, is that correct?
I do.
Two
Yes.
kids, and then a wife as well.
Yep. We've been. Well, I guess we're coming up on 27 years now.
Whew, congrats.
That's a
That's a good
while.
haul.
It's it's better than some, and feels like yesterday. Honestly.
Oh, right on. I love hearing that. So how is it, yeah, can you kind of take us through that experience of just your personal relationships kind of back from diagnosis? I remember it just, being extremely difficult when my mom was diagnosed, and kind of
Mm.
just, everybody working together, and then to just understand the impact of the situation and filter through the information that professionals are all telling us, and just trying to keep our,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
sanity, and kind of like how that's shifted. I'm so much closer with my dad now, since that unfortunate situation. It really brought us. You talked a little bit about like the silver linings of cancer before, and I'm closer with my dad and my sister now because of what happened with my mom. So very grateful for that. But tell me about it.
Yeah, boy. If you haven't noticed, I am pretty positive, and in
I
spite
got
of the
that.
fact
Yeah.
that virtually everybody in my children's life who has gotten cancer, having already passed away,
Mm.
um, for me, I think my kids sort of think about my cancer the way that you would think about having a cold,
Right. Wow.
um,
It's just
because
something
I've
that's there.
been well, yeah, I've been dealing with it fairly successfully
Yeah.
up to this point.
Right.
So whether that's fair or not fair for them, I would not. I would prefer not to put them through the type of emotional stress
Mm.
uh, now than I would have to. You know, my kids are on the autism spectrum, so
Okay.
for them, they have some difficulty dealing with social
Right.
things. My son in particular has trouble, well, with anxiety himself.
Right.
Autism is something that makes the world a very confusing place to
Mm-hmm.
deal with,
Mm-hmm.
and adding my terminal cancer to the mix of things that he has to deal with.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, he doesn't need that weight.
wouldn't no, it's not. It's not a burden I would put on him.
Right. And
Um,
and so does that drive your positive? Has that driven your positivity for your whole life, just to show up in a way
well,
that you're just being a strong father, right?
I would very much like my kids to go through life with the attitude that problems are things that you can deal with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, I would prefer them to look for opportunities, look for the bright side of
Mm-hmm.
things wherever possible. It's I think what anybody would want for their children is for them to be happy.
Yeah.
Uh, Having cancer is something that has I think certainly improved my patience. Uh,
I bet.
Autism is not something that is the easiest to deal with as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Being able to just communicate
Mm-hmm.
simple things can be so challenging.
Yeah.
And when you get into things that young adults deal with,
Mm-hmm.
and both of my children are now, you know, just becoming young adults.
Are they in their
You
they're in their late teens, early 20s? Is that right?
early
Early
twenties,
20s.
early twenties now. So you now have extra life things
Right.
that
Yeah.
are coming onto the
No
plate,
doubt.
and learning how to be more patient and understanding and more empathetic, I think has certainly improved my relationship with my son in particular.
Oh, awesome.
Uh, it's it's always been difficult for me to fully embrace. Everybody has hopes and dreams for their children,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm no different.
Yeah.
I would certainly like life to be easier for him,
Mm-hmm.
but it's helped me to accept that he's going through life on hard mode,
Right.
and I guess
So are you though.
my role is just to try to give him the best tools that I can to deal with
Right.
that.
Right. That's beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So we've kind of gone through the whole experience. Have you done more than one session?
I've done two.
Two sessions. When was
So
the second one?
second one was in November
Okay.
after the first one. So um, I did my first session. I had very good results out of it.
Mm.
I was very good for a couple of months.
Couple of
Uh,
months. Interesting.
and my scales that I would use to measure that would be how quiet my brain was.
Right.
You know, I generally have a pretty busy head,
Yeah.
I'm interested in a lot of
Yeah.
things. I have a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
And when you are in a state of anxiety with, existential dread,
Mm-hmm.
the majority of what that is busy with is crap you can't do anything about.
Yes,
So,
of course.
it's these ideas. For example, like I'm not going to be there for my family when they need me someday.
Right. Completely out of your
You
control.
know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't do anything about
Right.
that. So I was starting to get a little bit more of that creeping back
Mm.
in after a couple of months, and so I decided to do another session then,
Right.
and that definitely was exactly what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
It it for me quieted things back down again.
Wow. So it was about a 3 month gap then, is that right? 2.5, 3 months?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so what was the integrative process in those 2.5 to 3 months? Were you working with some of the other counselors at Therasil? Because I believe have you worked with Natasha? Natasha might be on the podcast soon.
Um,
Spoiler alert.
yeah, I've um, I have not worked with Natasha in a therapeutic capacity.
Okay.
I've worked exclusively with Bruce
Okay.
in that capacity, but I also have a good friend here who is a hospice volunteer.
Ah,
Actually, uh, he was originally a hospice volunteer with my father-in-law
okay.
uh, back in back in uh, 2019. My mother-in-law passed away
Mm.
unexpectedly, and my father-in-law, who also had stage 4 cancer,
Mm.
was not able to take care of
Oh
himself.
man.
So he moved in here with
Yeah.
us and had a hospice volunteer who was, keeping him company and helping him deal with his grief and things.
Right.
And so after my father-in-law passed away, John, who I had been visiting with and got along with very
Mm.
well, he became my hospice volunteer.
Okay.
So we connected very well, and he has experience using ayahuasca
Ah,
for his own personal journey, and he's a retired addictions counselor, and so
good guy to have
uh,
around.
yeah, yeah. So between talking with Bruce
Mm.
and talking with John about the experience and things, that was really where my integration
Right.
came into
Yeah,
play.
it's a good
And for
support group.
probably 6 months after the experience, you still get these what I would call aha
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah.
It's one of the interesting things about the psilocybin therapy
Mm.
is you get these you know forehead slappingly simple
Yeah.
things that have this profound meaning to you.
So simple. It's amazing how simple
And
it all
and
really is, and that perspective shift when you feel it, right?
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So I mean, some of the things that have come out of the session, are to say them, they sound trite and
Mm-hmm.
and simple,
Yeah.
but uh, the nature of a psilocybin therapy experience,
Yeah.
uh, I tell people that it can't really be described in any other way but spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And not spiritual in a religious
No.
sense, because that's
Yeah.
not what it was for me. It may be for other
Right.
people, but not for
Yeah.
me. For me, it was spiritual in being able to understand my place in the universe,
Hmm.
and and for me, that was very comforting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any doubts about my role in things and what
Right.
I'm supposed to be doing here.
Oh man, that's a peaceful place to operate from. I can't say that I've gotten there yet, but yeah, that trust that you know exactly who you are and what you're up to, right? There's a
Yeah,
lot of solace in that.
it it makes my world feel you know less out of control
Right.
than what cancer was initially doing for me.
Right.
I've got that kind of an anecdote that I came up with right after my session.
Right.
So the day after I did my psilocybin, Dr. Tobin asked me what the difference was for me.
Yeah.
And, I explained to him that, getting the cancer diagnosis really feels like you're being dragged behind a horse.
Huh. Yeah.
You're out of control.
Right.
You're headed towards a cliff.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it, and every part of the experience is awful.
Right.
Following my psilocybin experience, it to me feels more like I'm riding the horse. So we're still got a destination.
Right.
There's still stuff happening.
Yeah.
But
there's still
the
a bit of a
experience
wild beast that is on the journey with you, but you're slightly more in control.
It sounds silly, but it feels more like I'm able to enjoy the scenery. I'm able to enjoy the journey.
That's beautiful.
As opposed to just every part of it sucking.
Right.
Now I can see that there's parts of this that have benefit and aren't so bad.
Man, that's amazing. Oh man, getting emotional here. Just, yeah, to think that there's medicine out there that's illegal, that allows people in your situation to experience that perspective shift. Man, what a powerful thing, and it's why it's so important that we have to keep having these conversations and doing this work. That's
that's the whole reason why I keep trying to make people understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're doing a great job, man. That analogy was amazing. I can even resonate to like being dragged behind the horse from the perspective of watching my mother go through it. Right? We didn't know what to do. It was just helpless. That's incredible, man.
That helplessness is the worst part of the cancer diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are able to embrace that there's nothing you can do.
Yes.
And instead of spending all of your energy fighting what you can't fight,
right,
and you can then take that same energy and put it into spending time with my family.
Yeah.
We just got back from taking a little vacation.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I saw your Facebook post there. You took a week off. Well, you took a cycle off from chemo to go on vacation, right?
Yeah.
Worth it.
There's no way I would have been able to do that, a year ago.
Right.
My anxiety would not have let me do that prior to psilocybin.
Oh man.
And I have realized that,
what's important, right?
Is that going to shorten my lifespan any? Probably not.
Right.
And the amount of memories that I generate with my family, priceless.
Man, that's it. Wow. That's very cool, man. That's very cool. Okay, so what do people do? All these people that are in the same situation as you. I know that there's this big push with that TheraSil's working on right now for their summer of advocacy to open up more exemptions, Section 56, or just kind of, I think their ultimate goal is just to push it right through so people can just go and access.
Yeah.
So
honestly,
what should people do?
From my perspective, I think the best thing that people can do, people like myself, who have a real reason for wanting this therapy, or have a loved one who does.
Right.
There is an election coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We know it's coming. And I would very much like to see this as at least one election issue.
Right.
Contact your MP and let them know how you feel about it.
Yeah.
Let them know that you are in favor of medicalizing the use of this therapy.
Yes.
And that you would like to see this as an option that Canadians can use instead of just killing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
How can that even compare?
No. But to use
You
that
could kill
structure
yourself.
is huge, like you said, right? To use the main
Yeah,
structure that's already pushed through not that many years ago. That's the roadmap, right? Um,
yeah.
yeah,
There's, like I say, there's a couple of very reasonable and easy things that could be implemented right now, and they would be literally the stroke of a pen for somebody, and the suffering of thousands of Canadians would start to be alleviated.
yeah, yeah,
You
absolutely.
just have to start.
Have to start, and we don't have a choice either. I mean, we touched on the mental health crisis that we're coming into here, right? Like, I don't know what's a more important issue if we want to build up future generations and get out of this toxic negative cycle of poor mental health. We got to do something here, but it starts with, I guess, people opening up to their minds to working with psychedelics, because there's a lot of deprogramming that needs to be done there too, right? There's a
Yeah,
ton of fear
it's
in
one
that
of the
system,
reasons.
in that
Yeah,
world.
it's why I try to emphasize to people. Like, I mean, I am literally just an average 54-year-old computer guy with a family.
Right.
There is nothing whatsoever that's special about me. And if this type of therapy can work for me, I know it will work for other people.
Absolutely.
I mean, I am very boring and ordinary. There is no reason why there's anything special about my treatment at all,
Right.
and there isn't.
Right. Yeah. And that's it. People just have to be willing to take that first step, and give it a try. So I mean, I can't express enough, Thomas, how important it is. There's like, you've convinced. I didn't need to be convinced, but if I was being completely objective and pretending like I knew nothing about this space, everything that you just talked about, your perspective shifts, how you see your relationship with your kids, how you're choosing to spend your time now, even though you're still facing this terminal situation. I don't know how anybody could listen to this and not be convinced. So to at least give it a try. So just keep going. And like, where are you at right now in your like, you've kind of told us a lot, but like, we've kind of come all the way through, and now we're at, August 11th, 2021. I think that's the date today. Right? So
Yeah,
you're sitting here with me, you're talking about it. We're gonna make some real positive change and effect with this conversation, and spread the word. But what's next for Thomas?
well, it is now more than a year since I got my exemption, and my Section 56 had a 1-year time limit on it.
Oh shit! So it's illegal
So
for you to do psilocybin therapy again?
it is now,
Wow,
even though I have
that's
been approved
crazy.
and nothing else in my life is different,
Huh?
it is now illegal for me to do that same treatment that I know is effective. So,
What? That's so
in
ridiculous.
another 3 months, if I find my anxiety creeping back up on me, I can't have treatment.
Right? You'd be
I'm
breaking the
just like
law.
everybody else.
Yeah.
I would be. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And that to me has a certain amount of insanity to it.
Absolutely.
I have stage 4 cancer, and I have been fortunate enough that I have actually lived another year.
Right.
But because I've lived another year,
You're being
I have
penalized
outlived
almost.
my exemption.
Yeah. Being penalized for. Oh man, that's. I had no idea there was a time limit, that there was an expiry on the exemptions. I agree with your insanity comment. That's completely. That's actually a little bit sickening to think that you would give a time limit to someone with an all, like, you already have a time limit, right?
Yeah,
to
yeah,
to give you another one is it's like granting a positive thing, but it's also kind of like a little bit of an underhanded.
yeah.
But
I mean, if you looked at any other, if you looked at any other treatment
yeah,
for the same condition, depression or anxiety, and if you went to your doctor and your doctor says you got 1 year to get better,
right. Yeah, when we're taking your SSRIs away, you got 1 year.
yeah,
If you don't have it figured
yeah,
out by
yeah,
then, you're on your own. It's crazy. It's
doesn't
crazy.
even fit into the current model,
Oh
So,
man.
so something has to change,
What?
and that's why I'm so very motivated
Awesome.
to try to encourage
Yeah.
our legislators to look at just the insanity of that whole process.
Why do you think that is? What do you
Uh,
think the logic is? Did you get any answers from anyone around the the expiry?
Honestly,
Because it's just for
it
personal
could
use,
be that
right? Like that's all the exemption is. It's just to say that you're allowed to personally use a controlled substance.
in a controlled environment with a medical practitioner.
Right.
Yeah, so there's definitely conditions
Right.
associated with the usage of it, which I think are important.
Yes.
Again, I'm all for the medicalization, not for
Yeah.
the free for all.
Right.
But I I don't know whether they actually expect that a single treatment is all a person is ever going to need for their lifetime. Even though the studies do say that 80% effective after a single use, that
Right.
is a fact.
Right.
And of those 20% that it isn't effective after one, they do have more benefit from a second dose. I think it's reasonable to expect that people are going to need more than one session. I
Yeah.
mean,
Traumas run deep.
why would you expect to take one aspirin and never get a headache for the rest of your life? You
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. It's not a magic. It's not a magic pill. It's
No,
just an
it's
axe.
very
It's
good,
very good, and it's an
but it's not.
access to a new perspective that helps you you know do
Yeah,
some
I,
different
I
kind of work or do some better work maybe.
I don't know whether they had the expectation that I wouldn't need anymore, or because I'm stage 4, whether I wouldn't live long enough for it to be an issue.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is also a possibility.
Right.
I mean, most people with my particular kind of cancer do not have my kind of longevity.
Right.
I've managed to live, 5.5 years with stage 4 cancer,
Yeah.
and that's not in remission. That's active stage 4 cancer.
That's incredible.
Um,
I
so,
think your
it's possible that
positivity and your mindset has a lot to do with it, man.
I think it helps.
Yeah. It definitely does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have to say that being able to get rid of the anxiety and being able to tone down that fight or flight,
Yeah.
that's a contributing factor to being able to deal with this better.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Gabor Mate's work at all?
I don't believe I
Oh,
am.
okay. He's he's a psychotherapist that works out of Vancouver. He's worked with like the homeless community and the addictions community in the east side of Vancouver for a lot of years. I've been watching. There's a great documentary. I think it'd be amazing for everybody to watch this. It's called The Wisdom of Trauma.
Oh, I have seen
You
that.
have seen it. There you go. So that's Gabor Mate in that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, and he also has another book called When the Body Says No: The Hidden Cost of Stress, which is really incredible. And I'm hearing it a lot in this conversation as well. The link between mental stress, anxiety, depression, and how that manifests as illness in our body. And just to hear
For
you
sure.
with your perspective shifts and your 5.5 years and you're kind of blowing all expectations out of the water of, I just don't think that should be overlooked. That the ability to have a positive mental attitude and live with empathy and compassion, how important that is for physical health and longevity, and for us to be working on it, everyone to be working on it before they get
Before
a
you get
terminal.
something like what I've got.
Right, exactly. And yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's
Life is an incredible journey, and if you can go through it in a state of happiness, as opposed to, oh damn, I woke up again this morning,
yeah, yeah,
why why wouldn't we want to try to help people get to that state where life is a beautiful, amazing experience that it is?
yeah. That's a great question. I think we just need to keep. That's why you got to keep telling people about this. We'll just keep talking about it, and one by one, people will lose their fear. They'll hear more stories. It'll become more normalized, and it's one thing that I've experienced myself. The first time I took a larger dose of psilocybin, I was terrified. And after the fact, or I should say during the trip, I wasn't. The fear went away, and it hasn't come back. I'm no longer afraid of, I'm maybe afraid of some other psychedelics that I haven't tried before because I'm not used to the medicine. But psilocybin was very interesting to just see there's actually nothing to be afraid of with that medicine. If, like you said, you get into it, you use it, you accept it, you don't resist, and there's just so much good that comes out of it.
Yeah, it's I don't know, almost like a metaphor for a lot of things in life. It's the resistance and the struggle that causes us the most anguish, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think we just did about an hour and a half, Thomas. That was amazing.
How about that?
Yeah, that flew by. It was amazing talking to you, man. I'm so grateful for this conversation and you taking the time to spend it here with us. And I just want to see you keep going. You know, hit that 6-year, 7-year, 8-year. We need Thomas around talking about this to get everybody else on board. So keep doing your thing, man.
Well, I can't say that I would be sad to see that.
No, definitely not. All right, man. Well, yeah, we'll just end it there, and I wish you all the best, and we'll definitely stay in touch. This is not our last conversation, so I'm excited to see.
Sounds excellent.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what else we can talk about and work on together.
There's hopefully going to be some interesting things coming up in the fall here. I'm hoping to have an opportunity to actually chat with the MAID committee themselves.
Oh, amazing!
Coming up here, so yeah, maybe we'll follow up on that when I have some new news.
We'll have you back on anytime. You just say the word, and we'll do it. So, and we'll be closely following along your story as well. As things come up in the news, feel free to send them my way. We're pretty good at finding stuff, the latest that comes out in the media, and we'll link to those in our newsletter as well. So, yeah, that's great.
That sounds great.
Thanks so much, Thomas.
Well, wonderful chatting with you, Brett.
Yeah, cheers, man.